Hi everyone, back again for more of the magic trap. Hope you enjoy it. Look, Evan said. Step 1, the assistant lies down in the basket. Step 2, the magician closes the lid so the audience can't see. Step 3, the magician tilts the basket forward and the false bottom falls out. So the assistant is still lying there on the ground. But at the same time, the secret flap, which looks just like the false bottom, falls into place and covers up the assistant. "I still don't get it," said Jessie. Evan could tell it bugged her that she couldn't quite figure out the magic trick. "Here, give me a second to set it up, and I'll show you." Evan and his dad lifted the rectangular basket onto the kitchen counter, and Evan positioned Jessie on the other side of the room so that she was looking at the basket straight on. "First you open the lid on top, and then you have a person get inside." He grabbed a bunch of bananas from the fruit basket and said, "Just say, 'This is a person.'" "Bananas!" shouted Jessie. "Yeah, bananas, but in the trick it'll be a person. Then you close the lid and flip the box on its side." Evan turned the box over so that it was resting on its side. "Then you open the lid and you look. The box is empty. Ta-da! No bananas." "How'd you do that?" demanded Jessie. "I told you. It's a fake bottom. The person's hidden behind the box or behind the box, but the audience can't see it." "You're pretty good, Evan," said their dad. "Now, if you ask me, that would be a great finishing trick for your show." "Make me disappear! Make me disappear!" shouted Jessie. "Where'd you even get this thing?" asked Evan. He couldn't believe his dad had found something like this and gone to all the trouble to get it. "I just made some phone calls," he said. "I knew what I was looking for. I've seen that trick a dozen times. So I called a friend or two. Actually," he scratched his chin, "6. So that's who you've been talking to on the phone all this time. All those phone calls were for this?" "Some of them. What do you think?" The smile on Evan's face was so wide he thought his face might split in two. "You're the best," he said, and he rushed at his father, wrapping his arms around him. His dad hugged him tight and kissed the top of his head. "Let's take it out on the porch, and you and Jessie can practice. You've only got, what, 4 more days until the show, right?" Together they carried the basket out onto the porch and set it under the arch. Evan couldn't believe how real it all looked, just like a professional magician's stage. His father stood on the grass where the audience would be and looked carefully at the stage. "There's just one problem," he said slowly. "When I saw the trick performed, the person really did disappear. There was a trapdoor in the floor of the stage, so once you flipped the basket back up, the person slipped away and then reappeared at the back of the audience, and it was amazing." He nodded his head thoughtfully. "Yeah, I think you should do that." "Make a trap door?" asked Evan. "But," said Jessie, "then we'll have to cut a hole in the porch." Their dad nodded his head. "That's what I think we should do, to really sell the trick." "Oh, Mom will kill us," said Evan. "Why? The whole porch needs to be replaced anyway. Look at it." He walked up to the edge of the porch and started pulling on one of the rotting floorboards. "Honestly, it's a miracle your mom hasn't been hauled into court yet." "Stop that," said Jessie. Her eyes were wide as she watched her dad pull apart the porch, and she was jumping nervously from one foot to the other. "You know what?" said their dad. "I'm going to make some calls and line up a carpenter to put on a new porch. That way we'll have all the repair work scheduled before your mom even gets home. It'll be like a present that we give her. A terrific surprise. She'll love it." As gracefully as a cat he leaped onto the porch and walked into the kitchen, leaving Evan and Jessie staring at each other silently. "Evan," Jessie said. "What?" "Don't look at me. He's the grown-up." Evan knew in his heart that his mom wouldn't like any of this. But a trap door? How cool was that? Besides, we'll end up with a new porch. "I don't want a new porch." Evan knew that Jessie didn't like change of any kind. She liked things to stay the same. "Well, we're getting one. So just get used to it. Like Mom says, adapt and evolve, Jess." Their dad opened the sliding door to the kitchen and stuck his head out. He had his cell phone in his ear and he was grinning. "Hey, look, when your mom calls tomorrow, don't tell her about the new porch. I want it to be a surprise, okay?" Before either Evan or Jessie could even answer, his attention returned to the phone. Yes, I want to get an estimate. He disappeared back inside the house, closing the door behind him. What are we going to do, Evan? Asked Jessie. Evan looked at the basket. Practice a lot. By noon on Thursday, Jessie had already counted 36 kids who said they were coming to the magic show on Monday. She handed out the 404 in the morning, and right away, students, some of them even fifth graders, had asked about tickets. Maybe we should have charged more, thought Jessie. She was excited about the money, $36. But she also started to get that hard-to-breathe, thumping heart feeling that sometimes ran through her like a freight train. Here it was, Thursday afternoon, and they still hadn't practiced the disappearing trick even once. They had spent all yesterday afternoon cutting the hole in the porch. It was a big deal. They had to avoid the thick boards that ran underneath the floorboards, because that's what held the whole porch up. If they accidentally cut through one of those, the porch might collapse. That would be a showstopper, their dad had joked, but Jessie didn't laugh. First, they'd cut in one spot, and then they decided to cut the trapdoor in a different spot. So by the time it got dark, they had to stop, and they hadn't finished even one hole. When Jessie got home from school, the hole still wasn't finished, even though their dad had promised he would work on it while they were at school. Instead, Evan was sawing away at the floorboards using the old hacksaw. His hair stuck to his forehead in the big, sweaty clumps, and his hands were bright red from gripping the saw so hard. "It's not done yet," asked Jessie. "What does it look like?" snapped Evan. "You think it's so easy? You try it." "I'm not allowed," said Jessie. "Neither are you. Where's Dad?" "In there," Evan waved at the house, "on the phone again." "Maybe he's getting you another basket or another rabbit," said Jessie. She didn't like it when Evan seemed angry. "No, it's all this work stuff, very important work stuff." What did it mean when Evan talked like that? Jessie couldn't remember. Her mom had explained it to her, but now she wasn't so sure. It was one of those confusing things where people said one thing, but they really meant another. She wished her mom were there to explain it to her. "I get to talk to Mom first today, remember? She's not calling. She texted Dad and said she was trapped in a meeting and couldn't get away. She'll call tomorrow." "But I want to talk to her today. I want to tell her about the newspaper and how many kids are coming to the show." Jessie knew that she was whining, and she knew she should stop. People really do not like whining. This had been explained to her many times by both her mother and Evan, though Jessie could never really understand why. What made whining worse than regular talking? Evan stopped sawing and looked off into the woods behind their house. "Yeah, me too," he said in a soft voice. He tapped the blade on the saw against the wooden floor. Then he tossed the saw onto the porch and said, "Come on, let's go inside and have a snack. Dad bought ice cream, 3 flavors." Jessie was still trying to decide between chocolate chip and peppermint stick when their dad wandered into the kitchen, talking on his cell phone. He leaned against the jamb of the sliding glass door, and he stared out into the backyard. "So, you're saying there's movement, and you're sure?" There was a long pause while the person on the other end was talking. Jessie could hear the murmuring of the voice, but she couldn't make out any of the words. She decided to take a scoop of both kinds of ice cream. Mom wasn't here to tell her no. Her dad kept talking. And you can't get anyone to talk? Anyone? The voice on the other end of the phone made it a humming noise, and then her dad said, "Okay, I'll figure something out." And then he hung up the phone and stuffed it into his back pocket. No one said anything for a minute. Jessie wanted to talk, but she had that sudden feeling of danger that she couldn't quite identify. Something inside her said, "Keep quiet," even though she couldn't quite figure it out. "What's going on out there?" asked her dad, pointing to the half-cut hole in the porch. Evan shrugged. "Nothing, I guess." "Well, that's not an attitude that will get you very far in life," said their dad. He went outside, and in a moment Jessie could hear the sound of the saw against the rotten wood. "Why don't you go help him, Evan?" asked Jessie, noticing that Evan's bowl of ice cream was empty. "He doesn't need me," said Evan. "There's only one saw." Even so, he wandered outside a moment later, and when Jessie finished eating her ice cream, She walked out to the porch and saw that the hole was complete. So are you wondering what I'm wondering, and who has their dad been talking to? What do you think's going on? Something with his work? Something else? Remember, good readers always ask questions on what's happening in the story. Bye. See you later.